Hello and good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Miller, and on behalf of the Caneo Open Space Foundation, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's presentation, our first webinar of the 2026 CASA speaker series titled Forest Bathing and Healing Landscapes, a Guide to Mindful Nature Connection with Irene Rowland, founder of Forest Needle Wellness. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that the Caneo Valley is located on the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Chumash people who have lived here for thousands of years. The Chumash are the original stewards of this land with a deep cultural and spiritual connection to the valleys, coasts, and mountains of this region. We honor their Chumash communities, past, present, and emerging, and express our gratitude for their enduring care of this land. We recognize their ongoing contributions to the cultural and ecological richness of the Caneo Valley and beyond. And as residents, we commit to learning from and respecting Indigenous knowledge and history, and to supporting efforts that uplift Indigenous voices and sovereignty. Our vision at the Caneo Open Space Foundation is to inspire the community to act to preserve our Caneo natural open space, its trail system, cultural heritages, and unique ecosystems so that they will be protected and enjoyed for generations to come. As an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization, this vision is supported through volunteerism, fundraising, and education. Each year, we host this speaker series to help bring interesting and informative information to all of you on topics related to our beautiful Caneo Valley. As the Foundation's president, I'd like to take this opportunity to also especially thank the many donors joining us tonight. Whether you contributed because of this event or an annual donor, your contributions are making a major impact in the work we do. We thank you for making a difference in your community. Please continue to keep the Caneo Open Space Foundation in your philanthropic plans and reach out anytime. It's almost time to move on to our program tonight, but before we do, a few housekeeping items that I'd like to share with you. First, note that all attendees are muted for the duration of the presentation. This presentation will be roughly 45 minutes with an opportunity for questions afterwards. And we definitely welcome your questions submitted at any time during the presentation with the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen. The chat function has been completely disabled for this event. Steve Johnson and I are joined by our fellow board member, Ann Russell, who will be moderating the Q&A for us this evening. We will also be recording the event so you can rewatch or share with friends. It takes about a week for us to get that up on our website, but we will let you know when that happens. So, on a personal note, if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that mental health and emotional health are every bit as important to my life as physical health. And I was thrilled to learn that tonight's topic is on the Japanese practice of shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. As mentioned, Irene Rowland is our presenter tonight, so I'd like to give you a little bit of information about her. Irene's certifications include a Master of Traditional Medicine cum laude from Emperor's College of Traditional Medicine, as well as the National Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, the California Board of Acupuncture, and the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. Her long-term experience in Chinese medicine, somatic healing, and nature-based practices helps her clients regulate their nervous systems, restore vitality, and reconnect with their innate wholeness. She is a licensed acupuncturist, Asian medical practitioner, certified forest therapy guide, and, as mentioned, the founder of Forest Needle Wellness here in Thousand Oaks. Her work involves weaving traditional wisdom, embodied awareness, and the healing intelligence of the natural world to support deep transformation, resilience, and well-being. So that said, Irene, without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to you and take it from here and enlighten us on how shinrin-yoku can help us all recalibrate with nature.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to the team at Caneo Open Spaces Foundation for inviting me tonight. I'm so happy to be here with you and share a little bit about the magic of forest bathing. So, as Bill mentioned, my name's Irene. I am a certified forest therapy guide and Asian medical practitioner with a license to practice acupuncture and herbal medicine. So, before we get started tonight, I wanted you all to have kind of a immersive experience. So I'm going to give you like a minute or two if you don't already have a glass of water or some sort of drink. Have it handy for a little bit later. And then also, as we're going to be sitting here a while, make sure you're comfortable, you're warm enough. Grab a blanket, feel supported in your space. If possible, if you wouldn't mind silencing your phone, just so you can really have the benefits of the full experience and maybe let your family know. I know that's hard for some, but maybe let your family know that you are not available for the next hour or so. I've had a discussion with my little golden retriever sitting here next to me, so hopefully he'll take my advice. So I'll just give you that minute or so. Make sure you're supported, your back is supported, your feet, and the theme of being grounded, your feet are able to touch the ground, or however you prefer to sit, cross-legged. It's what you can maintain over a period of time. The first half or so, my presentation will be information, and then we'll go into more of the immersive experience of as much as we can do here on screen and inside of our homes to replicate the forest bathing experience. So with that, let me move on to my next slide. Just again, acknowledging and showing gratitude for the tenders of the land. The first being, as Bill mentioned, the Chumash people, the Shell people, as their name is translated. They have been very impactful to the land. If you're trained in this, you recognize some of some of our native plants that are growing together in a symbiotic experience. And this is by no accident. This is the work of the Chumash tenders that were knowledgeable with the plant medicine and were able to have that planting series to be able to benefit the plants as well as themselves. And then also thanking the current tenders of the lands, Conejo Rec and Park, Posca, and of course our very own Conejo Open Spaces. So moving on. Just a little bit of, you've got a good background on my credentials and professional work, but a little bit about kind of the depth of the work I do and how I came to this work. During the lockdown, I closed my practice down, and it really afforded me the opportunity, the luxury of spending hours and hours in our open spaces. And the medicine I practice is historically from a perspective of Taoism, not as a religion, but as a philosophy, and all things held under the universe as being a part of the Taiji symbol, the yin yang symbol, and everything has its opposites. And when that perfect opposite comes into balance, we have Wu Wei, which I will talk about later, but just the completeness of being. So in my many adventures on our trails, I would make connections with plants and notice plants and take samples home and make poultices out of them and apply them to certain, like my knees were inflamed. And it would just be, I wasn't even aware of what the plants were. And it was really amazing, the benefits I got. And sure enough, I researched and they were anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, and all these huge benefits. So it really got me interested in actually taking the medicine I'd learned in a classroom setting and had a beautiful certificate for, but really applying it in real life and really understanding the depth and the meaning behind the medicine and how these plants were Some of the same plants that are used in Chinese herbal medicine are growing in local regions. Some of them, a lot of them, we have in our front and backyards. Um, I was kind of going through nature books and found this one particular book called The Nature Fix by Florence Williams. And I didn't even get past the first page, honestly. Um, and she she brought up the fact that there is a profession of people that take you out into nature, and it's called forest bathing, and there are forest therapy guides. And I immediately got on my computer and started Googling, like, training opportunities. So within 9 months, I was trained, and I am now a trained and certified uh, forest therapy guide. And this work resonated so strongly with the work of the practitioners of China and the Taoists, for these reasons: the ideas of stillness and reflection and intuition. And all those, for me personally, and I'm sure for all of you living in a human body, this resonates with the idea of our nervous system, this completely um, primal structure organism that sends multiple electrical impulses up and down our bodies at any given moment. We're receiving, just with you listening to my voice, there's so much activity you're taking in your personal environment, but that can become overwhelming. And in certain environments, the more, certain environments, like specifically the freeway, there's so much stimulation there. And to have that opportunity to have a commute home from work and then, put your hiking boots on. And especially, we're so fortunate in this area to kind of go within 10 minutes or so, be on a trail, and to embody this idea of stillness, reflection, and intuition. So, with that, what is forest bathing? We've been talking about it a lot. So, here's a little definition. It's a Japanese practice, shinrin-yoku, and it is considered. We were having this discussion before you all got on, but it is the Japanese ministry back in the early 80s had, with the economic boom, found that their population was really impacted by, work stress, balanced life. And so they started doing research on the benefits of actually spending time in the forest. And I don't do this, or I could, but they would actually take vitals, blood pressure, monitor the heart rate, and then also evaluate at the end of the forest bathing session. And they saw a marked difference in people's body and how they were presenting. So that's kind of how it got its quote unquote name. Although I think those of you who have spent time in nature can probably contest to the fact that it's something that we've all innately can experience. And I just want to simply bring some of the science to you, and also a way to practice in a more available, extended way. So that's my goal for tonight. So it's research based wellness experience of immersing oneself in nature using all five senses, and we'll talk about plus the senses beyond the five in a moment, to bring about calm, a regulated state, and develop mindful connections with nature, and thus resulting in the healing of our mind, our body, and our spirit. So, some benefits, again, of the body, mind, and spirit. I was out on the trail today, kind of in preparation for today, practicing what I preach. And, are the slides going to work? Am I going to be on time for the Zoom? Is my technology going to work? And all that was kind of building in my narrative. So I decided to take a little break and go on the trail. I have the good fortune of just being just at the base of the trail. So what we find in those moments of stress is, I'm sure you've all aware of this information, but our cortisol levels rise and histamine levels respond. And we've got this inflammation going on in our body. And what I see in my patients are, depending on what their constitution is and where the deficits are, that's kind of where the inflammation will occur. And because I practice 5 element Chinese medicine, which is cyclic. So one organ system will impact the next organ system. And we see a whole cascade of things happening. Very commonly, we see high blood pressure, so it benefits the blood pressure and lowering it, and thus boosting our immune systems and cognitively improving mood and memory, which all loops back to the beginning of reducing stress. And so it's also interconnected. And that's really one of the things that I appreciate about the perspective of medicine that I practice from, is that the body is not separated into parts and components, and it's viewed as one unit. And that's really where I practice from, is looking at how our experiences and how we process emotions and integrate those emotions impact the body. So maybe in a different presentation, I could talk a little bit about that, but it's truly all connected. So a little bit about the senses. Sorry, I didn't realize this was such a blurry image, but we get the idea. So we've got these 5 senses. We integrate information from our eyes, the orifices, as we refer to them in Chinese medicine, taste, sense of hearing, smell, and touch. And all this information goes into our body, and our body needs to compartmentalize. Something's too loud. Something is, too hot. We're sensitive to the touch. So it tries to balance. It tries to keep us in homeostasis. And sometimes onboarding that information really takes a lot of resources, and then we see an imbalance in the body. And so in forest therapy and forest bathing, these 5 senses are really incorporated, and we're going to do a little demonstration later, where we use our ability to take in information this way to balance out our body. And I mentioned earlier, there's the 5 senses that we just talked about, but there's other senses of the body as well. There's actually, depending on who you talk to, our bodies have possibly dozens, if not hundreds, of senses that are just beginning to be explored. But or 2 properties that kind of come up in our inner and outer world is this idea of proprioception versus interoception. So proprioception, is the body's ability to perceive its own position, movement, and spatial orientation using receptors in muscles, joints, and the inner ear. Versus the idea of interoception is the sense of the body's internal state, allowing the brain to receive, interpret, and respond to signals like hunger, thirst, heart rate, and temperature. And in the nature setting, you can well imagine then we're now propriocepting with a plant, or the distance of a plant, or the texture and the surface and the unevenness or evenness of the trail itself. So all this, the body's calibrating. It's quite an amazing feat if you think about it. We're walking, we have these 2 surfaces that hold this huge structure and weight, but our feet are only yay big, but they're able to maneuver and circumvent all the rocks and the bumps and the slopes. So the body's intelligence is amazing in kind of recalibrating all of this so we stay upright. So this internal sense is crucial for maintaining homeostasis, self-regulation, and emotional awareness. And a little bit about that. So when we're in a stress setting, the body becomes dysregulated, as we know. Typically, we see the heart rate increase. We see there might be the pores open as a response, some sweating. And so this idea of being able to get into your body, and a lot of people need to develop that as a skill. And we've become so outwardly interactive with our environment that sometimes it's hard to get in our body and become self-aware of what's going on inside. I often work with my patients, and I do an exercise where kind of it's a meditation, and then there's this idea of like finding a space in your own body where chi or energy. You'll hear me use this throughout the presentation today if you're familiar with the term qi. In Japanese, it's chi as well, but chi. And it's just this idea that energy runs through the body. And when there's a disruption of stress in particular, it causes a blockage in the body. And that's often where we see some sort of symptom arise. So, in that, there are Qigong or Qi work practices where individuals will address parts of their body and find that particular part that's blocked and really put an awareness there. So when I work with my patients, I have them kind of do an inner landscape survey, if you will. And when you connect that with the experience that you're having in nature, it's that connection and the reception that goes back and forth between the two beings that can actually regulate and just create balance in the body. So proprioception and interoception. Proprioception is, again, your body in space, how you move. If you're someone who's talented with, has a good sense of proprioception, you're probably coordinated, you play sports, you have an ease and a facility with sports, you might be good in math. That's all spatial. And then versus the interoception, which is just building the awareness of what's happening in your body. Like I can feel this, I can feel that. Not necessarily addressed to pain, like it's not that type of experience, but more like I have a sense of there's a sense of heat that I have in my abdomen, but it's not physical. It's like an energetic or an emotional component to it. Okay. And then really, I think this is the crux of the forest bathing practice where you get into the sense of the heart sense. And there is heart math website, wow, heartmath.com. I'm sure it's can be found easily, but it's research has been happening for a while, and they're exploring this idea of our heart being beyond an organ, but an energetic unit of our body in the sense of chi. And I'm sure we've all heard of the miracle of heart transplants. And these people that receive the donor's heart will actually experience the emotions of the donor. And it's so if we think of that material, the heart tissue, as being able to hold energy, and whether it's transferred from one body or to the next, it's this heart sense and this. You probably, if you have a puppy, you get a puppy, or you see a baby or your grandchild, that sense of swelling and awareness kind of around your heart, and it gives you joy. It's a very quiet, subtle joy. It's not in Chinese medicine. We say that the heart is the expression of joy. It holds joy, but it's the sense of overjoyed that creates the imbalance. So overexcitement. So, but this is a little different. This is just that sense of often intuitive, emotional, and sometimes energetic intelligence of the heart, allowing it to function as a source of guidance and personal wisdom beyond its biological role. It involves tuning into the heart's nonverbal, felt response to navigate life, foster self awareness, and align with one's deeper purpose. And when I take a group out on the trail or on a forest bathing session, you really see this sense of the people becoming aligned with themselves, the heart sense really blossoming, and they really will find answers I've seen literally grown men cry. They've come in very guarded and they've left light, like you can see it when you see someone's face. And in Chinese medicine, we call it your shen, the spirit that's in your, that kind of lights the eyes and has that brightness that you see in someone. And on the reverse, it's a dull kind of look or quality to them. Um, when the shen is basically aligned with your purpose, you see people leave from one state of being to the next within like an hour and a half. And it sometimes it happens faster than that. So that's not, I don't ever take credit for that. I believe that's nature's connection and something that we can't always explain. The Tao Te Ching, speaking of nature, the Tao talks about if the Tao, if you have words and you can explain the Tao, then it is not the Tao. So this experience as well, like I can sit here for the next 4 hours. I won't, but I could try to describe this to you until you go out and you connect with nature and have this self-awareness of a really deep purpose and alignment. Then you'll understand, and you might not even be able to find the words. That's how deep it is. So yeah, that's kind of the, like I said, the crux of this forest bathing. And that's when the heart regulation comes in, the heart regulates, beats at a proper rate, the breathing regulates, the nervous system knows it's safe. Okay, now here's some science. Everyone's talking about this now. Breathe, make sure you're breathing. Take a deep breath. It's really underestimated the power of it. And so when you're out and this um, in the forest, I had someone say to me in it. I think I was an event that I'd put on Eventbrite, and in the chat, someone said, "We don't have forests in we don't have forests in Southern California." I was like, "Oh, I beg to differ." So, but the forest does have medicine, and the medicines are in the form of these plant vapors. I'll call them vapors of emitting essential oils called phytonicides to protect themselves from germs and parasites. So it's a useful material for the plant, but it's also useful for us as humans when we inhale these compounds, and they have a positive effect on our body. So if we look at this photo alone, we've got cowboy sage. I think there's some black sage in there. Is that coreopsis? And so all these plants are emitting these essential oils, and it makes basically a perfume as you're walking down this trail. And you're inhaling, you're exhaling. So they all have properties, whether they're antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. And in Chinese medicine, we look at it from a different lens. So it may, I know the cowboy sage picture here helps with respiratory, the lung meridian. Um, so all this is medicine free at your disposal that's going to regulate and balance your body simply by walking and breathing. And it's amazing, and it's all free. So another aspect that is a huge part of forest bathing is what we refer to as the liminal space. And this is the in-between transitional state experienced when stepping away from hurried life into the quiet, nonlinear time of nature, where time seems to be suspended. It acts as a mental and physical threshold where everyday demands temporarily slip away and a deep sense of relaxation ensues, enabling the nervous system to regulate. You've got the demands all day long, work demands, family demands. And just to give yourself a circuit breaker from all the demands, you enter this space, this liminal space, which is, again, simply it's a transitional time where your body the body understands its interoception through the proprioception, understands you're in a safe, regulated space. And um, I I know of a gentleman's work, Gil Hedley, and he literally teased out. He works with donors after they've passed, and he does this beautiful work. And it sounds kind of gruesome, but it's not. If you ever get a chance to hear him speak, but he literally teased out a gentleman donated his body, and there was a very ritualistic um, way that he took the nervous system from the body. And at the end of months and months of doing this, he lays the nervous system out on a stainless steel table and honors it in a ritual. And you really understand when you see it in this form that the nervous system is a structure, and it's very. I said this to a patient the other day. It's very childlike. It gets when it gets scared, it pulls away. The kidneys will go up with it, up into the cavity of the body. And when it's regulated, you'll notice the fascia attached, the lymph is attached, everything when it's pulled up and tight and starts to get reconfigured around structures and organs and joints. And when it relaxes, it's able to open, and that helps us breathe, helps us stay calm. So it's really the whole body is cannot be separated in that sense. It's really the core of it is the nervous system. And so if we can attend to that very immature, it's a very old structure. If we can attend to that and treat it like it is a childlike, the tenderness of working or dealing with a child, it really responds well. I've seen it in my work. I've seen people, work on themselves. I've seen it on the trail on these forest bathing um, excursions, and it's amazing how simple it is to access that part of ourselves. So liminal spaces. Okay. And this is kind of like where we start doing the interactive session. So I invite you, if you've changed or want to maneuver your body and get comfortable, I'm going to do like a little senses activity with you. And since we can't go to nature, this is me bringing nature to you. It's not very long. So just take in the information and then maybe record it in your memory as it ends. What you're seeing, what you're hearing, perhaps what it would feel like, what it would smell like. Again, this doesn't have to be an elaborate uh, setting. Just some grass, some evasive grasses that some people have disrespect for, which I understand. So find a comfortable seat, allowing your sit bones to be supported. And from there, the back rebounds and straightens. And the feet, if you're sitting, can be grounded on the floor. And maybe with the first gentle inhale and exhale, there's this idea of interoception. Paying attention to the lungs expanding, the lobes of the lungs expanding and deflating. And with each breath, there's a connection with the heart. And just notice that. Relaxing the head, the eyes, the back of the skull, the jaw, the throat. Allowing the shoulders to drop away from the ears and the collarbone to smile. Maybe with that, take another breath with awareness internally. And with that breath, maybe you release the abdominal muscles, the hips, allowing your sit bones to get heavy in the chair you're sitting in, perhaps the legs, and finally down to the feet. Notice yourself as if the bones and the muscles were able to loosen, the muscles around the bones, and perhaps allowing for a bigger breath, inhaling and exhaling. And if you'd like, either visualize the video that I had or something that you might be more familiar with, a place that you like to go. And imagine the smells, perhaps the smells of the essential oils being carried in the air of all the native plants, perhaps the smells of the clothes that the laundry that your clothes were laundered in, maybe the actual smell of dinner lingering in your home. Just notice, nothing to do other than perhaps another inhale and exhale. Our sense of taste is closely related to our sense of smell, perhaps as if you were drinking from a straw. You've taken a sip of air. If you were on the trail, you might be inhaling and actually tasting the chemicals that were of these plants, the medicine of the plant. What taste? Maybe you have tastes of dinner lingering. Again, just notice. This is how we return to the body with an awareness internally and interoceptively. Perhaps you notice the sounds around you, or the sounds are in the video of the wind and the grasses blowing. Or maybe the sounds in your house. Maybe family members tinkering in rooms. Maybe inside the house sounds, outside the house sounds, perhaps a plane or cars going by. Nothing to do, just notice, no judgment. Let, as if your ears were vessels, just let that, don't reach for the sounds, just let the sounds come to you. Stay within your body. Inhale. Now to the sense of touch. Perhaps you feel the texture of your clothing. Or maybe one hand is within the other hand held, and you feel the texture of your skin. Possibly coolness or warmth. Just notice. So you may have had your eyes closed. And if you're ready to open them if they are closed, maybe with this idea that it's the first time ever you're opening your eyes. I just had a new baby grandniece born a few days ago. What was it like for her to open her eyes for the first time and see the world? Maybe with that newness, you let your eyelids gently lift. Just notice what you notice. Nothing to do. And if we were out in nature, a nature being would be looking back at you. Your tree, maybe an animal, a bird, the sky. Inhale, exhale. So this practice brings us to our heart space. If you've noticed, like talking slower, more intentionally, and the energy of the body is regulated, and the heart space is regulated. something I didn't mention earlier, but the heart math talks about, uh, I dispute it. I think it's a little bit wider and bigger, that we have this bivalent space between us when we, let's say, are having a conversation with someone, that the energy or the chi radiates, or some people refer to it as aura, radiates 6 to 8 feet around us. That when you're having a conversation with someone who's a few feet away, that your heart energy emits through and their heart energy emits as well. And then you have this alchemical, basically magic happening. And we can always bring that forward in our conversations. And especially magical when you have someone who's not ready to meet you there, and to let your heart space emit with good intentions, and to see how, with the way I'm speaking and what I'm doing now, I have seen people change. They're coming at me, they're disruptive, they're irritated, agitated. And with this type of speech, you just see the change. You see that them and their environment change. So I hope you're still awake. I can put people to sleep that way. And kind of returning to our notes here. Um, I mentioned this word earlier. What is reciprocity in nature? So this is my picture of my little special spot that I sit. And I think of it as like the wise old tree. It reminds me of an owl, very like piercing look straight at me. Like, be truthful with me, Irene. I can see the truth. So we sit, this is where I went today. And it's this idea of reciprocity is that we go out into our local trails here in Conejo open spaces and witness the beauty of these plants, the geology, the animals. But have you ever considered that they may be able to witness you? And we know the indigenous people, the Chumash, all indigenous people believe in the spirit of animals and plants and um, living beings that are not human. So science tells us that we're all made of matter, and the atom as a fundamental building block of all ordinary matter. These particles vibrate. This is science. This is not me coming from any other perspective other than science. So particles vibrate and they emit energy. Master Emamoto, who studied water and its effects of the voice and messages sent to water and freezing it, created these beautiful ice crystals. And when water was exposed to negative thought, negative words, even words on printed paper or music, like a hard rock, metal rock type of kind of music, the crystals were either they never formed or they were malformed and they weren't aesthetically pleasing. But the ones that were treated with tenderness and care and kindness became symmetrical and beautiful. So we are at the very smallest particle of ourselves. We are just vibrating energy. We emit energy. So when something comes at us that's abrasive, whether it's a loud sound or something that frightens us, this energy gets disrupted. And when we take the opportunity to stand next to one of our oaks, from the physics point of view, what you're doing and what you're experiencing is actually being experienced by the oak as well. So it's that energy. It's that if we have heart math, what does a tree have? And they're built a lot like us, right? We've all seen the imagery of the roots, like our roots, and our limbs, like a tree limbs. So we are really reciprocated in nature as our body, our form. So why wouldn't energy be reciprocated? And if you stand, people make jokes, make all the jokes you want about tree hugging. It is the most therapeutic thing you could do. And to have a conversation. This is just a little personal story, and I won't go into depth, but I lost my brother to cancer several years ago. And when he was diagnosed, and I knew intuitively that he would not make it, I went out to another, not this tree, but a different tree that I have reciprocity with. And I sat and I cried and I cried. And I was just in that moment, it was just so, I wasn't, I didn't feel better. I knew what was happening, but there was some ease and comfort given to me in that moment. And I will never underestimate the power of doing that type of healing. And again, it's free. I sat there in the dirt with this tree and it held me. And it's a beautiful experience. If you haven't done it yet, look over your shoulder, make sure no one's looking, and give it a try, please. Um, and again, how are you perhaps healing each other? And as we know, our environments are being destroyed by our human habits. Um, and it would not be a bad idea to help out a tree. And just a few words that I wanted to share some vocabulary from a Taoist medicine, nature philosophy perspective. I really like the term Wu Wei, effortless action is the English for it. So it's acting without forcing, allowing events to unfold naturally. This is something you can practice on the trail, in the open spaces, and take with you into your daily life with your family, with your coworkers. So we've all heard the little cliche saying, be like water. And water flows, it softens. It's a tremendous force as well, but it can flow around and take the form of whatever vessel it's in. So Wu Wei, effortless action. How can I do without doing? And when you're on the trail, you're doing without doing. Things come intuitively. Nature speaks to us in this language, and we reciprocate. So again, not so much a religious perspective, but more philosophical, this idea of returning to the source, understanding that all things arise and from and return to a state of stillness and simplicity. So two ideas that you can take with you today. And as I'm ready to wrap up, I hope we're doing okay on time, but here's a list. I'm also going to turn this into a little intention and a practice with you. So it's kind of one of the last things I'm going to leave you with. So tips for forest bathing. Feel free to take a screenshot. Let me make sure you can see it. And I'm going to talk you through this as if we were doing it. So this is actually from today. And I always forget. This is at the end of Moore Park Road over on Green Meadow. It's a short little beautiful forest trail. And again, easy to get to, literally a lunch break stop on a tough day. So before I go on the trail, I set an intention. I stop somewhere on the side of the trail. Maybe today it was near right at this oak. And FYI, watch out for ant trails. um, but I place my hand on the oak and then to honor it and to acknowledge the land and the nature beings. I place one hand on the tree and one hand on my heart. So imagine yourself being in the space, placing one hand on the tree, one hand on your heart. Perhaps an intention or a mantra comes to you or a prayer. Perhaps it feels safe to close your eyes and soften your gaze. So then take those 3 calming breaths like we did in the other practice, inhaling and exhaling 3 times. And when you're ready to walk, as if the earth was a being itself, right? Mother Earth, how gentle could you step as you slowly move yourself deep into nature connection? I used this once in a walk. I asked the participants, imagine your feet are kissing the ground. Each time you step, it is a kiss to Mother Earth. And it really sets a different tone. And then 4, use your nighttime eyes. Keep your eyes gentle. So nighttime eyes would be the eyes that we use during dream. Nighttime eyes are where that overactive daytime eyes are quiet. It's the time that it's nighttime eyes are similar to what we experience when we first wake up. kind of if we're waking up in the twilight, just half awake and 1 foot in reality, 1 foot still in the dream world. And five, find a sit spot. Okay, so a sit spot is a special place that your body, your interoception and your proprioception has deemed like this is where my body needs to be. This is where I feel safe. And it's a resounding resonance. Yes, this is the right place for me to sit and simply sit. Number six, with the same slow, gentle breath that you did before, and notice what is around you and who's in company with you. Move your head, always move slowly, move your head gently side to side, noticing your surroundings. And just sit and notice. Nothing to do. You never want to get, laundry list. What am I going to make for dinner tonight? Simply notice. Start paying attention to the leaves, the smallest bugs crawling around, the sky. That's one of my favorite is to lay down and look at the sky and watch the clouds or watch them. I have so much memory taken on my phone of taking video of the light coming through the sky. And I can tell you again, like the story I shared about my brother's experience, you will find answers there. All the answers are there in nature for you. And you just sit and you breathe, and you will be surprised. Take all the time you need. And when you feel complete, the nervous system will know that sense of interoception. The body will say, I'm done now. Offer a gesture. I have taken this from an indigenous tradition. This is what I do. Usually I run my hand through my hair. There's a loose hair or something, and I will take a hair and I'll wrap it around a tree branch and offer some gesture or a word of that seems relevant and it gives reverence to that space, that part of nature that has us connected to you. And then walk with the same reverence and stillness and quiet, that kind of quiet walk on the way out. That will withhold the chi, the energy that you've gathered in your practice. And explosive actions or loud speech that emits a lot of chi and expels from the body where it depletes us. And so this practice of moving slowly and timely, kind of like Tai Chi, right? When we move in Tai Chi, everything is slow, intentional, and it keeps the body's energy withheld, preserved in the body. So that's a little gift for you guys to take with you on the trail. And I asked you earlier to make sure to have something with you. So this is my setup that I use. I put tea in my little ceramic teapot. So I invite you to have a tea ready. And this has a lot of, beyond its aesthetic here, it is a way for us to get back and kind of ground ourselves, because you will find when you go into these liminal spaces, you're kind of like, where am I? Who am I? What day is it? And so using the senses, using food and liquid to get back to the body, to remember that you are a physical being. And again, out of the liminal spaces will help you slowly and gently bring you back out of that sensation. So I have a little teacup here and the one picture here. And I always ask my participants, and this is what we did. Pour a little tea. And the first cup is always offered in gratitude to the land. And since I don't have the land, I bring the land to us with a little plant. So I ask that if you would like to all put an intention into this teacup, normally I would pass it around the circle. So quiet intention, prayer, wish, and then someone would pour it into the land, returning it and showing gratitude. So gratitude to the land and all the open spaces for all the beauty and the gifts. and you may partake of your water or your tea. So many thanks to you all for being here tonight. And my wish for you, may nature's medicine always be a guide for you to give you resiliency and hope, especially in the most challenging of times. And from the Tao Te Ching, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Thank you so much, everyone. Stop my share. I believe we can
Thank
go.
you. That was fabulous, Irene. That was really, really helpful. In terms of questions, somebody is wondering if you can say a little bit more about what setting an intention means. Is that the same thing as setting a goal, or is it more of a spiritual identity, or what?
Sure, that's a great question. So depending on what perspective you're coming from, if it could be a prayer, it could be, this is sometimes I just utter a single word like peace. And it's kind of whatever, not a goal and a strive, because goal kind of has attachments of striving, but just this idea of like in this moment, what is it I'm desiring for my own peace of mind?
And should it always be something different, or is it
It can be. It can be. Maybe it's something, somebody might stay with a certain intention for a while as they work on their own inner landscape, their own selves. Yeah.
okay? We have a participant who has trouble with focus, and it's very difficult to stay in that calm space to even get to that place, right? What do you say to people about that? Where, oh, I can't sit still, I keep fidgeting, I think things are
Yeah.
crawling on me.
Yeah. That's the age old question. Master, how do I sit still? How do I meditate? Yeah. It is called a practice. For all the years that I've done anything, meditated and done all the different inner practices, the what we call as Negong, inner name meaning inner, Gong meaning work. I still have my days where I'm like, what time is it? I'm hungry. And to give yourself the grace, let those days just like an old sage, just laugh at yourself, like, oh, today's not the day. And practice will get you where you need to be. Even if it's a 5 minute, like I've got 5 minutes to go, literally stand at the trail entrance and just stand next to this oak and practice will do it.
We have someone who's wondering if there's such a thing as night forest bathing. Do you ever take people out at night, or do people go out at night? I mean, that seems sort of mildly creepy, so I don't know.
Actually, I do, and they're actually really cool. I've done around the holidays. We'll do a lantern walk where we all get like battery operated lanterns or battery operated candles, and it's really cool. I have some really beautiful images. I've also done like full moon walks and things like that, and they're just energetically they're completely different. And then intention setting when people are on those, it comes because typically the moon is dedicated to emotions, and so a lot of deep things come out and you're kind of like in the dark and you can't really see anyone. And the vulnerability is there in a safe space. So yes, there are nighttime walks.
Interesting. How is chi related to emotional health? What is the connection between your energetic body and your mental state?
Sure. So chi is our vital force that runs through our body on a scientific level as a multi-celled embryo. I forget exactly when it happens. We have one little node in the heart, the SV node, that literally goes bleep on. I'm online. It's a spark, and that will circulate through your lifetime. As we know, the law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be destroyed. So we are an energy body and experiencing life. And as these experiences come, we have been endowed these wonderful, beautiful things called emotions. And emotions can, each of the five elements, again, this is like a whole nother talk, but the five elements that I practice with, fire, wood, why am I going backwards? Water, metal, and earth have an attached or have a symbolic emotion. And when the meridian that's associated with that gets disrupted, then you have symptoms, physical symptoms. So I do, when I work with people, whether it's in the nature space or in my clinic, it's always, eventually we address the underlying emotion behind everything, and then we find a lot of answers.
I think Bill had a question. Did you want to ask Irene something?
I unfortunately was not able to quite formulate exactly my question, but at the end of the day, I think what it was about was, do you have any specific, like, I love the fact that you point out how just walking down the trail and experiencing the chemicals that the plants and the nature is providing can provide this calming sensation. And, I know when I go for a mountain bike ride and I come back and I smell like sage, I love it. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But when you consider the concept of forest bathing and finding peace, are there any trails, and I don't want you to give away all the secrets, but are there any trails that are, or specific areas in the open spaces that you think are really effective at that?
Yes. If you have limitations as far as distance, the one I mentioned, the names always escape me. Go down Moore Park, going towards Santa Monica Mountains, and then make a right where there's a parking lot there for a trail. You can park in there. Or if you want to be even closer, it's right on the backside of Los Robles, and there's some townhomes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Driving it.
That would,
Yeah, right at the end of that stretch, there's a trail right there. I think I was there, not Los Padres.
Los Padres Trail. Yep.
Los Robles, maybe. Yeah, that's one particular spot that's super fast. And again, it can be your backyard. It doesn't have to be some space that is that far away.
The
And
picture.
the whole access trail is in kind of the same area. And I think that that's also what's nice about that is that it's a whole access trail. Anybody can get to it. And,
Right,
I think that's where some of your pictures were from. So
right,
cool.
right.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
know this is the best time to go. It's
Yeah.
the snakes aren't out yet.
Yeah.
Oh, the snakes are out.
They are
Trust me.
out. Oh
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Well, be careful. But yeah, everything's so green right now, and there's so much blooming that we won't see for the rest of the year. So yeah.
One more question, I guess. Is forest bathing something that's better done as a group with a facilitator like you, or is it really something that's better done on your own? Which do you think is the more effective?
I think they're great, both great tools. The solitude of being out there on your own is a different experience. I highly recommend that, especially if you have time to just pack a bag of, lunch, water, and just disappear. If that is part of like your daily life, if you can get away like that. Doing it in a group is different in that you have the guide guiding, obviously, step by step, but there's also, you're doing it within community. And we are tribal by nature, and we have changed that in many ways. So when you are in community with others and you're sharing, that again, that heart energy comes out, and it can be healing, knowing that the circle of individuals who you might have just met an hour ago is now holding you. It's really beautiful.
That's really nicely expressed. I think it works both
Mhm.
ways, for different reasons, as you say. Yeah.
And some people, and I get it, are like they like doing things on their own. But if you're one of those people, which I am, try giving community a try. And you'll be surprised.
I guess that wraps it up. I don't know, Bill, do you have any further thoughts or comments?
Oh yeah. Well, and you know me, I've got plenty of thoughts and comments. But Irene, I want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
One thing I do know is that I need to follow your tips for forest bathing. And also, unfortunately, our event has come to an end.
Mm.
So I do have a lot of takeaways from tonight. I hope our audience does as well. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to you for leading tonight's discussion and sharing your insights with us. The idea that we are one with nature and nature is one with us really resonates with me deeply. When we're surrounded by it, we feel at home, and when we're reminded that nature is inherently healing. So I know for myself, open spaces are somewhere where I turn personally when I need to find calm and step away from this new linear, relatively new linear boxy world that we've built around ourselves. So to all of our attendees tonight, get out, enjoy those open spaces when you can, find that peace, find that healing, and know that as we tradition from winter to spring, trail conditions can vary. So be sure to check out the Caneo Open Space Foundation feeds on both Facebook and Instagram for the latest conditions. And when you do get out, please stay on the trail. Report any trail damage you may find on our website under Trail Report Forms, Trail Watch Report. Take lots of photos, soak in the beauty, kind of what we talked about tonight in a sense. And please continue to be partners with us well into the months and the years to come. So thank you for your donations, your volunteerism, and for your participation. We'll see you all out on the trails. Until next time, have a lovely evening, and thank you again, Irene. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Pleasure.
All right, be well all.